Good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday morning to you, and welcome back to Morning Musings. My name is Don K. Preston. I am the president of Preterist Research Institute of Ardmore, Oklahoma. We are continuing our examination of the Olivet Discourse. We're focused on verse 14, where Jesus said, "This gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world as a witness to the nations, then comes the end." I pointed out to you that every single word that Jesus, in all of his teaching, that Jesus used to either predict or to command the preaching of the gospel into all of the world, Greek word cosmos, to all, or the word world, oikumene, or the word for creature, and slash creation, Mark 16, preach the gospel to every creature, and every single word, okay, that Jesus used to predict or to command the preaching of the gospel into all of the world. The Apostle Paul used those identical words to say the gospel had been preached. Now, it's absolutely amazing to me. I don't know why I'm a bit surprised. When futurists, realizing the power of this argument, all right, futurists come up and they go to these various verses and they say, well, now a person could understand, you could understand the verse in a different way. Recently, for instance, I had one individual come up on Colossians chapter 1 verse 23 and say, "Now, Preston, even though it says the gospel had been preached to every creature under heaven, the force of the Greek there means that it is a gospel that is preached." In other words, it is a preached gospel, and it is a gospel that is preached to every creature. Not that Paul was saying it had been preached to every creature. Well, you could press that point, I suppose, if you wanted to, which is exactly what's going on here, folks. Okay, make no mistake, the people making this kind of argument are simply trying to escape the force of the translations. Here's something that I pointed out in response to this individual. When you go to Bible Gateway on the internet, you can look up every English translation that they have listed. Now, that's 56 English translations, okay? Not one, do you catch the power of this? Not one single translation, 56 translations, not one of them render it any other way except the gospel has been preached, has been proclaimed to every creature under heaven. Now, if the argument being made is the expression of truth, we're supposed to believe that every single English translation, all 56 of them that are listed, and okay, there are some translations that have been produced since Bible Gateway began, but you get the point. Not one of them, folks, not one of them render it any other way except with the force of the gospel has been preached to every creature under heaven. Not that it is a gospel that will eventually be preached to every creature, and they do not render it as it is a preached gospel. No. They render it has been preached to every creature under heaven. Every single translation. Now, I don't know if the gentleman responded to that or not. I haven't found his response in my tags in Facebook, but be that as it may. Now, we come to the very last of the words that Jesus used on another occasion in Acts chapter 1 and verse 6. Verse 8. Jesus told his apostles. Now, this is immediately at the time of his ascension. But he told them to go into Jerusalem and there wait until they were endued with power from on high. That's the baptism of the Holy Spirit. And he said, you shall be my witnesses in Jerusalem and in Judea and in Samaria and to the uttermost parts of the earth. He uses the Greek word ge. We would spell it G-E. Some spell it G-E-Y. But here's Jesus telling his apostles, you will be my witnesses to the uttermost part of the earth. Now, here's a question for you. If Jesus was thinking in modern cosmological terms, the globe, yes, I believe in the globe. Anyway, the globe of the earth, then he was telling those 12 apostles, okay, at the time it was 11. It would be 12 later in Acts chapter 1. But nonetheless, he was telling them that they would be his witnesses. Now, what did he mean by witnesses? Well, in Acts chapter 1, 21 and following, we are given the definition of what Jesus meant by witnesses. It would be those who had been with Jesus since the days of John the Immerser, through his ministry, who had been witnesses, eyewitnesses of him in his resurrection. So Jesus was not speaking in some broad, generic, comprehensive way of, you shall be my witnesses. He was speaking to his apostles and said, you will be my witnesses. Now look, folks, that demands that those apostles are the ones to go and to preach to the uttermost parts of the earth. So what did Jesus mean by earth? He meant the areas where the apostles would go. Not generations later, not thousands of years later. That's not within the purview of, you shall be my witnesses. He was speaking to men who had been with him since the days of John the Baptizer. So if you want to get technical here about the definition of earth, then you must accept the fact that Jesus was speaking to his 12 apostles, 11, and said they would go to the uttermost parts of the earth. So, okay, did they go to South America? Did they go to Russia? Did they come to North America? No, they did not. And yet remember, as I pointed out in yesterday's video, Paul, who was added an apostle because he had seen the resurrected Lord, said he had been given the responsibility to preach the gospel to all of the nations. And when he stood before Nero, he said his task was completed. And oh, by the way, that same apostle said in Romans chapter 10 and verse 18, the gospel had been preached in all the earth. Greek word, ge. And so I ask once again, how much more clearly could the New Testament affirm the fulfillment of Jesus' prediction and command of the Great Commission? Now, we're going to drive this home in the following videos, because Jesus said this gospel of the kingdom must be preached into all of the world as a witness to the nations, then comes the end. So, the completion of the world mission was to be a sign that the end was near. What we find in the New Testament is the affirmation the gospel had been preached to all the world, and the declaration that the end was near. Now look, folks, if the gospel had not been preached into all of the world, then the apostles were not supposed to declare that the end was near. Okay? Now, don't forget, I cover all of this in my 2 books, okay? Into all the world, then comes the end. The elements shall melt with fervent heat. If you purchase them separately, they would be almost $41. For July 2019, this 2-book special total delivered price, $30 to your door. Go to my website, donkpreston.com, bibleprophecy.com. There's a tab right at the top, a banner. Just click on it and order the 2-book special. Save yourself over $10. Okay? Thanks for joining me for this morning's Morning Musings. I'll see you in the morning.